We were all like wetting ourselves. My basement was flooded.
She bombed. Dumping the dancers was the wrong idea.
They were never better than Mons.
5 Nordic countries competed at Eurovision 2015, but only 2 made the grand final. Winner Mans Zelmerlow of Sweden and Debrah, Scarlett, and Mørland from Norway, who finished in a very respectable 8th place. The other 3, Iceland, Denmark, and Finland, all finished near the bottom, with Finland coming last in its semi-final. Now, you guys, as you know, we ran a poll on wiwibloggs for who is your favorite Nordic entry, and we can now reveal the results. After counting 3,470 votes, Norway's Mørland and Debrah Scarlett come out on top, followed by Sweden's Mans Zelmerlow. And then, as you'd expect, there's a huge gap with Iceland, Denmark, and Finland. You guys, why do you think Norway won our poll but didn't do so well at Eurovision?
I think maybe the problem at Eurovision was the staging itself, because before, like, when we were running whole, when it was at Melody Grand Prix, it was all like intimate, but it was also very dark and meaningful. And then they get to Eurovision and it's all Nicky and it's all fun, light, airy and happy. And that's not a fun, light and airy song. So it just was kind of disconnected from the message.
I think it was probably a bit of the anti-Melfest vote as well. Because there's a lot of people who just decide that Melfest, is too cheesy or too manufactured or whatever. And then they'll just go for the next best option just purely to avoid the Melfest winner, even if the Melfest winner is better. And I think that's what gave Norway a lot of votes in this poll. They were never better than Mons, in my opinion. So they didn't deserve to win.
I think there is probably that sort of anti-Mons kind of vote in there, because realistically, I think we all knew that they would be the only Nordic act who could challenge Mons. I still really liked their performance at Eurovision, though. I mean, it wasn't as good as Mons is, and Debrah was a little bit off at times, I think, and the staging was the camera shots were too wide. There wasn't that intimacy. It wasn't as, it didn't connect as much as it did originally at Melody Grand Prix.
Now, you guys, in April, Norway was getting so much momentum behind it. You know, at the London Eurovision party, at Eurovision in concert. We were all like wetting ourselves. My basement was flooded because this song was really good. They were singing well live. Lots of people were saying, ooh, Norway, as Chris just said, could slay Sweden. And, you know, you show up in Vienna and they do not slay. It just wasn't there. But let's go further down the table. 3rd place in our poll was Iceland's Maria Olafs with Unbroken. And now, y'all, we all, well, many of us felt the hype of this song. After she won in Iceland, we were saying this is going to go top 5 potentially. She did an amazing job with our jury. And then she kind of cracked up in Vienna. Were you let down by this as much as I was?
So let down. I mean, like, I thought this was top 2 because, like, Iceland specialise in doing 2nd place entries, and I was convinced this was going to be, like, another year hunter, and then she bombed. And at the time, I thought it was a bad vocal because watching it for the first time, she sounded shaky and nervous and small. But watching it back, it was just boringly staged, like, really dull. The only good thing is where she has, like, the powder and she did, like, the close to camera, and she's just like, that was like the only glowing moment of it, because they just ruined the song with terrible staging. I think losing the dancers was what killed it. I think if she'd had dancers and not like the slightly ominous crowd of assassin backing dancers, she did done really well. And just, yeah, boring staging.
I like the staging. I still think she should have qualified. She wasn't top 10 material. She probably deserves to come 3rd, because I think she's better than the other 2 Nordic entries in the poll, so she deserves to be 3rd. But there's a big gap between the quality of her final product and Norway and Sweden.
Yeah, I definitely think that dumping the dancers was the wrong idea in retrospect. She looked really alone on the stage. Like, the cracks were there, literally on the floor. Like, it was breaking apart as they were doing them. Yeah, it just wasn't exciting. Her vocals weren't great, and I think what it made you realise was the longer it went on and the more we heard it was just how empty a song it was. Like, the dancers distracted you from the fact that it was the same thing, just repeated about 5 times. And I think she'd have kept it in Icelandic, actually, in the end. Yeah, it wasn't exciting. Better than the other 2, probably, but I'm not... Now that I look back at it, I'm not surprised that she didn't qualify.
And when we were in Vienna watching the rehearsals, I didn't realize how bad it was. I guess because we weren't watching on the TV, we were just watching in the arena. And like, I actually thought it was quite good. I was like, ooh, amazing Icelandic background. But I watched it on line the other day for the first time, and she sounded awful. Like, from the very first note, it's obvious she's not going to qualify. And I don't know why in Vienna I did not realize that. Seeing it on TV, it can just be so transformative. Because even in the arena, like, I didn't think she sounded that bad.
Yeah. It's the same with a lot of the singers who didn't qualify. When people didn't qualify or did poorly, like El Haider or Melanie Renee, when we were in the arena, they all seemed fine. But you're caught up in the atmosphere of being actually there, and TV, you're that bit more removed. So I think it's easier to see, because you go back and look on YouTube and you're like, oh God, she sang horrible. So I think you kind of definitely get caught up and don't spot vocals.
In Maria's defense, though, I will say she is like significantly better than the other two Nordics, and I would have actually, the performance side would have easily put her alongside Norway and Sweden. Like this was in my top 5, like it was up there with them. I just think staging really killed this song off.
Well, let's quickly talk about then. So Iceland came 15th in her semifinal, Denmark came 13th, and Finland came dead last 16th. And in our poll, Iceland is 3rd, Denmark is 4th, and Finland is 5th. So Denmark, anti-social media. Did it deserve its placing in our poll 4th place?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that they kind of surprised me the more that I saw them in Vienna, because I really got into the song, and the performance was really, really good in the arena. I think they were a very good one to watch live, but when you watch it back on TV and actually watching it even in the press centre when we were watching it, the performance was just so static and boring. Like, they were jumping around like the green room and stuff, like they were loving it there, and then it just kind of all felt a bit flat. But when you were in the arena, they sounded really good. But yeah, like, I'd probably put them and Maria quite close to each other in 3rd place, but yeah, they were definitely better than Pertti Kurikan Nimi Päivät.
They were a huge grower for me. Like, I did not like this song at all prior to Vienna. I would have put this last, even behind Finland. But then in Vienna, I thought it was quite good. Again, I obviously got it wrong because they didn't qualify. But, you know, they were borderline coming in, 13th? It just had a very good 60s mod vibe. I think it was well styled. I think they put a lot of thought, and this is a credit to DR, like they put a lot of thought into the outfits, the way the backing vocalists would fit in, and I thought it looked expensive, which is always a good thing.
It was very repetitive, though. Like, it was the same thing, just the way you are. Like, how many times did they repeat that line? And it was just going around in a constant loop. And that's fine in the arena or whatever, where you can sing along and jump up and down, but if you're at home watching it on the telly, completely sober, just sitting on the couch, it's just going to bore you. And I can understand why it's done so poorly, because I didn't like it before Vienna, I didn't like it in Vienna, so like, it's no surprise to me that it came 4th.
I think it was just like the best of a bad bunch at its national selection though. Like, I think this year Denmark's songs in general were really weak to pick from, so this was kind of the best they could pull together. And I actually think, yeah, it was quite compelling, but clearly not strong enough, because that semi-final was overloaded with like heavy hitting songs that were always going to sail straight through.
But it's fine, because they're going to win next year because it's in Sweden. That is the rule these days, so...
Oh, God. Start saving our money now. Well, in last place in our Nordic poll, perhaps not a surprise, is Finland's Pertti Kurikan Nimi Päivät. Now, you guys, I really did think, like the bookies may have thought, that the whole Down syndrome special needs thing would give them a bit more love. And with the televoters, perhaps it did. They didn't come dead last. I think they were just slightly below mid-table. Still near the bottom, though. But the jury ranked them dead last. Were you surprised by that?
No. Literally, like, so unshocked. I was like, it sounds bad, because, like, you shouldn't schadenfreude and take pleasure in other people doing badly, but, like, I was so happy when this didn't qualify, because I was really worried that, like, noise and, like, a great backstory would triumph over, like, actual quality compositions, and I'm just so glad, like, the jury stepped in and was like, no, because this was, like, awful. It was horrendous. Like, I was so glad it ended quickly, because, like, I hate punk music, I'm not a punk rocker, and just, yeah, this was easily, like, the weakest entry, and such a good selection in Finland, and they picked, like, the worst song. It was like Latvia of old.
I still think the most nervous I was the entire time in Vienna was when it came down to the last reveal of semi-final one, and Belgium hadn't been announced and Finland hadn't been announced, and Sammy and I were stood together in the arena going, "Please be Belgium, please be Belgium," because I just thought, "Oh God, it's Finland!" Like the story would get them through, and that is what I said the entire way through, and I was happy that they didn't get through because in that field of songs, it did not deserve to get through, and that is ultimately the thing that we should be judging it on, not who they are at the end of the day.
Porig.
Yeah, well, it was whatever about its Eurovision results amongst the readers of our site. It was always going to come last because our readers have never been a fan of it. We haven't been a fan of it. I think it came last in the Wee jury in both the national final and for Eurovision. So it's not surprising at all. They'd made very little effort once they got to Eurovision because they had this song that was 1.5 minutes long. They could easily have added more and given it a bit of a revamp to improve their chances because, let's face it, they had the time. They could have used it and done something maybe with their song that might give it a bit more appeal to the juries. Because especially when you consider the jury makeup, they were never going to go for the punk song because a lot of the jurors were former Eurovision singers who'd sang pop or ballads. There was no really rock stars or anyone who was likely to have like an alternative taste that would have gone for them. And then like their story, I don't know how much people at home would even know their story. So
But of course, the story is now over. As you can read on wiwibloggs.com, Particular Academy Pivot is splitting up. And this isn't really a surprise because on the red carpet, they told us that this is just business. We don't like each other in real life. They also said even prior to Eurovision, we don't like each other. This is just our life. And so now, you know, they're living up to that. They are over and done. PKN is no more. Hopefully this will motivate Satin Circus to come back next year without the threat of being unseated by PKN yet again.